Lindsey Graham tweeted that Donald Trump's performance in the State of the Union was fantastic, and he concluded his tweet with Trump 2028. He's just shitposting. You people worried about this are just, you have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, we're going to joke about it until it's real.
Hello, everyone. It's JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. Hit subscribe, hit like, follow the channel, buy tickets to come see us live in Phoenix, although there probably aren't any left, to be quite honest with you. Go to thebulwark.com/events and come hang out with us, because everything is terrible.
You can stand outside and throw tomatoes at JVL on the way out if the tickets are sold out.
Cans of tomatoes, even. All right, last night was the big Trump speech to Congress. We are contractually obligated to speak about it. Sarah, you actually sat through the whole thing live and then did a quite excellent post-game show with Sam.
I appreciated that post-game show so much because I fell asleep. I fell asleep during the speech, literally just passed out with his voice in the background, which was why I had bad dreams. And then I woke up this morning. I was like, fuck, I got a podcast about this. What should I do? And I was like, oh, wait, Sarah's already given me her analysis.
Yeah.
So I just went and watched that. And what you can, I don't know, maybe you've after a night's sleep, maybe you've revised or an extended thoughts, Sarah?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Have you moved on? Because your general, if I could sum for viewers who may not have seen it, was Trump was very, very bad, and it may have been quite effective.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, he lied, and he was terrible, and he sounds like a moron, and also it was like fan service up and down. I mean, the biggest thing, and I believe this maybe just more today than I did yesterday, is I was watching it and I was going, okay, so he did this long stuff up front about, and it was trans sports. I mean, there was just a lot of it. And all of the Joe Biden, worst president ever of our lifetime. And then he kind of like did the economy and cost of living, which is basically like, it's all Joe Biden's fault. Yes, eggs are so expensive. It's all Joe Biden's fault. I'm going to do a great job on this. Now I'm going to read you a list of things that USAID is spending money on that are stupid. And I was just very surprised by how little he talked about cost of living, since it is easily, I would say one of the things that Trump is very good at is he is good at understanding the way Americans prioritize things. There's a reason during the election he talked about the economy all the time. And so it was striking to me, and I think striking more because I realized they are starting to realize what a weakness it is for them, right? There's this old joke, this old story about a president, and maybe it's like a true story, but it's like the president comes in and his predecessor leaves him an envelope in his desk. And it was like, there's two envelopes, and the first envelope is like, he's like, open the first one first, and it's like, when everything goes wrong, and it will, blame me. And I can't remember what the second one is, like the second part of that parable. But anyway, the first part I remember, and that's what he's doing, right? It's just like blaming Joe Biden. But to not have any meat around what he's going to do about the economy. Things were great under Joe Biden,
if I could just remind people.
No, well, JBL, you and I have not had, I don't know if we've had this fight like IRL, but I think that Trump is getting hurt on the economy in ways he never has before, because people are still experiencing high inflation, high grocery prices, high cost of living, the same way they were under Joe Biden. And before you were like, oh, macro economy, great, whatever, because as it still is, I don't think the contours of the economy have not changed that much in the last.
Inflation is up.
Yeah, inflation
Growth
is up a little
down.
bit, but it's been. Listen, that's fine. And I think Trump is vulnerable here, but Trump has not ruined the economy in this short period of time. It is not very different from Joe Biden's economy.
True. It's a little different. It's worse. It is worse. Just objectively, it's worse.
And this is how you're going to sort of square this circle of saying Joe Biden had this great economy. And now
the Dow dropped 1,300 points in 2 days.
Yeah, but it's climbing back up, and it's like just the last 2 days, right? So like people didn't form their opinions over the last 2 days. I've been talking to voters about this throughout, and they maintain that the cost of living is still too high, and more importantly, they do not view Trump as focusing on those issues. Like they look at Doge, and there's a group of voters. It's not all of them, right? The people who are there for fan service, and I think Trump. This is why I'm saying last night was effective from a fan servicey standpoint. Trump knows that what people want to hear is like, yeah, I'm going to tell you all the dumb stuff that they're spending money on. And they were laugh lines. And I actually think it's funny to have the leader of the free world saying like the names of other countries where we spend money as though like, who's even heard of this idiotic place? Is this even a real place? Like that normally that would be a bad thing for the leader of the free world to be like saying, I don't know what these places are or what they do, but instead.
Is that made up?
Yeah, right. Instead, it's like he's turning it into an asset. And so I think, look, anyway, my point is that I think it was effective actually. And I'll add one reason that I don't think I said last night, or if I said it, I don't think I hit it hard enough. Republicans looked like they were having the best time, and Democrats looked like they were having the worst time. And
in fairness, that's because that's what was happening.
Right. But like, I just think from a pure optics standpoint of like who looks like the winner in this situation and who looks like the losers, Democrats looked angry and defeated, and like all the little protests and things like that looked ineffectual and small in a way that Trump looked like a guy who was winning. But to me, the underbelly of this was that he had to skirt an issue on which he is deeply vulnerable now, which is the economy. So he blames his predecessor, but at some point, like the next time he gives that speech, he can't do that.
I have a couple thoughts.
Go ahead, and then I want to ask you about AOC.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on what Sarah said. Number one, I want to advise and extend a couple of remarks. Before I fell asleep, I learned more about the specific instances of trans sports drama than I have my entire life. I mean, we did like a play-by-play of a
Did he talk about the women's sports
volleyball
teams that were going extinct? Because that's what Coach from Alabama
really going
told
extinct?
us. Do you remember that?
Women's sports
did you not see that?
Right while women's sports are peaking. No, I did learn a lot about like a JV volleyball match in Idaho or something last night, more than I needed to for presidential remarks. But he focused on that. He dialed in.
Good.
And
could he send the National Guard in maybe to take care of that middle school girl who wants to be on the girls volleyball team?
I pulled this up also. The story that you're telling, there are 3 envelopes, actually. The first envelope says, if you screw anything up, then open the next envelope. The next envelope says, blame everything on me, your predecessor. Then the next time you screw up, open up the third envelope. You open up the third envelope, and it says, blame everything on me again. So there you go. He was taking the advice. It's blaming Biden all the way down.
That's not the story. No. The end of this. No, now I remember. The punchline is, the next time you screw up, sit down and write 2 letters. That's the punchline of that
telling
story.
The next president to blame them. All right, well, this is good. This is good material. I don't really disagree with Sarah on anything. I except for the fact that I think that it's all pointless. I don't think it really matters. I actually think me and Sarah agree on the underlying point, which is if he can't deal with the economy, like if the economy keeps going into the tank and they fuck it up, that matters more than anything that he said or that the Democrats did. And I think that like there is just sometimes a feeling of a need to have a take on these sorts of things. And it's like, yeah, I agree. The Democrats looked like they were sad and he looked happy. But it's like, who cares? There's not another fucking election for a year and a half. And the Democrats could have done whatever they want. Like they could have taken a shit on the ground. They could have not shown up. They could have all worn white. They could have held hands with the Republicans. Nothing would have really mattered in the grand scheme of things. Like their job is to make a case against him on the vulnerable issue now going forward. And I would, like to see more of that and like to see more righteous rage on behalf of the people that are being hurt.
So I want to get some AOC content in here because she skipped the speech instead just went live and answered questions from people on new media.
I like
pro
that.
Or anti?
I'm pro doing it. My AOC thing is I've said this once before, I'll say it again. I don't know that AOC is looking to me for advice, but if she did call me in for like a strategy session and said, what do you think I should do? I would just say, I want as much bartender AOC as possible and as little like Williams College intersectional meeting AOC as possible. And like, I didn't watch her whole Instagram live. I watched like 9 minutes of it, and I got a few minutes of bartender AOC and a few minutes of Williams College intersectional, a progressive group meeting AOC. And so it's fine. I just like, I like it as a strategy. I don't think that there's any reason to go to this thing. The whole thing is kind of farcical. Like watching it being like, oh, we need to really respect the cabinet as they walk in, and it's like Pete Eggs up, and it's just like the whole thing is just fucking stupid. Like it's not, it's not there is. The idea that there's this grand tradition, like we've made a modern tradition of this in the TV era, but for like many, many years they just wrote letters, and for many, many years it was like a private thing that had a radio address, right? Like the whole, you don't have to like treat this with reverence, and so I think it was fine that she didn't.
Winter hibernation is over, and it's time for some of that spring cleaning. But when it comes to the scent of your laundry, it shouldn't smell like the same thing you use to disinfect your bathroom. Enter Laundry Sauce, the premium scented laundry pods that don't just clean your clothes, they elevate them. Say goodbye to that stale, overused detergent scent and hello to luxurious cologne quality freshness that lasts. Imagine stepping outside on the perfect spring morning with your clothes smelling like Indonesian patchouli, Italian bergamot, or Egyptian rose. Laundry Sauce isn't just about smelling incredible. It's engineered for performance. These highly concentrated pods are packed with the cleaning power of bioenzymes that obliterate stains from muddy hikes, backyard barbecues, and that inevitable iced coffee spill. And because spring is all about fresh starts, they revive fabrics, making your favorite pieces look and feel brand new. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code TheNextLevel at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your order at laundrysauce.com with promo code TheNextLevel. Real talk, these things are great. Really, really great. I never knew that I needed premium detergent in my life, but I kind of do. They come in these really nice, fancy packages. The smells are great, but they aren't overpowering. I was a little nervous because I thought, oh, do I really want to have aggressive smelling laundry? But it's not. It's just this hint that is the perfect level of, oh, I like this. This is nice. And they work better than even like the real dedicated laundry detergent. They're just premium at every level, and they're great. Super love them. Super endorse. Remember, for a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code TheNextLevel at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your entire order at laundrysauce.com with promo code TheNextLevel. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell good, look good, feel good with Laundry Sauce. Is there an aspect of was it the NRCC who this week was like, no more town halls because they didn't like the optics of Republican members getting shouted at over the economy? That sort of ties in with this a little bit, right, Sarah? I mean, it's the same thing, right? Trump couldn't talk about greatest economy ever. So he just talked about like transports in Lesotho.
Transmice also. There was some discussion about
right. I mean, these things are kind of the same, right? They want to insulate themselves a little bit from reality.
Yeah, I mean, this is different. The town hall thing is amazing. The town hall thing is just like, don't give them like any optic. We don't want any bad optics. And so like, just don't meet with your constituents.
Do it over Zoom.
That's my favorite thing. Is just that they're gonna, and so, was it Tim? Were you the one saying like, so Democrats should hold town halls?
I think it was just Bill. But yeah, Democrats should hold town halls in every congressional district in America.
And so I think that's
once a month.
Like fill the void that they're leaving. Like if they're gonna, and then also make hay out of the cowardice, like all day long. And like you hold these things. If you're thinking of running in a
Republican district, go out and say, you're elected, Jim Bob Bob, what's his face, isn't going to show up here because he doesn't want to hear from you. But I'm running against him, and I want to hear from you right now.
Now, a lot of these places are probably like deeply red, and these are safe-ish seats, but they should still create meaningful media opportunities of complaining that Democrats or that Republicans are afraid of their constituents and won't show up.
Yeah.
Also, it's good for Democrats, by the way. This was not on our conversation about interest in Sarah's take. I think like it would be good for Democrats to show up in red districts, have town halls, and have them get yelled at, and like depending on the Democrat, whether they're capable of handling that, of like parrying, educating people, being like, do you actually know what's happening with the veterans being fired, et cetera, et cetera? Like, conflict benefits them right now, whereas it doesn't really. For the
Mr. Buttigieg, sir, if you're listening, Mr. Buttigieg, you have to visit all 435 congressional districts to hold town halls.
218.
I'm sorry, but you got to go do that starting today.
So depending on how the districts are made, right? Like if the Republican's not showing up in their district and you're a Democrat who's like 2 districts over, like that's who should go and be like, oh, they're not talking to you. I'm going to come talk to you.
Assuming they can talk, actually. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
I think maybe they should appoint 10 Democrats who can do it. I don't know. I saw a couple of selfies. You don't really know the whole Democratic caucus. There are a lot of good ones that we think about, but once you get down to number 210 or 178, there's some people out there that I don't know if we want to throw them into the lion's den. But
how about Gavin Newsom, who's got his new podcast?
This is what I was going to ask Sarah. What did you think about this? Because I think I'm for it, and not because I'm like excited about Gavin 2028, but I think that Gavin fighting with Charlie Kirk is a useful use of his time. I feel like I'm in the minority on that. I'm curious on where you stand.
I think it is useful if he is going to be a podcaster now. Is he a content man? If he's a content man, then great. Be a content man and it's a good bit. If he is trying to be Gavin Newsom 2028, I actually think it's really, really freaking stupid.
I kind of disagree with that.
Okay,
I think the line between content man and president is pretty thin now. And just think about the competitors we have in the space. Gavin, Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, Cory Bush. Everybody wants to be a podcaster. They're all coming for us. And, we'll see how they do in the rankings. I haven't seen anybody pass us yet, but we'll see. But I just think that like getting attention for attention's sake is good at this point. And he actually has to govern California, so I think probably it'd be better for him to govern California well, which would probably be the best thing for him to do. But short of that, owning Charlie Kirk is about as good of idea as I could have for him underneath.
Do you think he owns Charlie
California
Kirk?
well.
Do you
I have
think
no idea. I haven't listened
to it yet, and so I'm going to withhold like whether I think it's remotely beneficial till I've heard it.
Okay. We'll report back. That'll be a homework assignment. We'll report back next week.
Yeah, because if it's a lot of like, look, obviously I believe in robust discourse with one's,
obviously,
yeah. If
you and Kevin McCarthy engaged in some robust discourse.
I did. I do think that if you want to be president of the United States and you like, there's an element of it to me that is performative in all the ways that I don't like Gavin Newsom in the way that he's performative. Like I find his particular way to be not good, but also it's steeped in this kind of weird like, well, Charlie Kirk probably has some good points. Like, if he wants to run for president of the United States and he's trying to win over Charlie Kirk? Like, I think he's
just alpha dog. He's trying to alpha dog him. He's trying to demonstrate that he can bring liberal ideas into the lion's den.
Let's make a bet on this.
Okay.
Let's make a bet on whether or not he owns him and alpha dogs him, or whether or not they do a lot of like handshaking. I agree with you. On this we agree. Because I bet they do a lot. He does a lot more to try to find common ground than he does alpha dogging.
Is it Tim Walz with J.D. Vance or is it Sarah Longwell with Kevin McCarthy? I don't know. We'll see. I concur that Tim Walz with J.D. Vance would not be a very good use of anyone's time.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think I disagree with that.
With who?
I think that if Newsom is able to pull an audience, right? Because this is only useful if you can pull an audience of people who are actual undecided-ish, right? Like true independent types, or people who are just so heterodox that they might as well be independent because they believe too many contradictory things. I think that if you maybe I'm wrong, put 10 of those people in a room to watch Gavin Newsom and Charlie Kirk, more people walk out of that room saying, yeah, that Gavin Newsom's got some points. I like him. Than they do walking out saying, I never really thought of that stuff that Charlie Kirk was talking about before. It makes a lot of sense. Right? I mean, this is like classic Sarah outreach. This is classic,
no, it's not.
Like go on Joe Rogan stuff, isn't it?
Sure. Go on Joe Rogan if you want, but this is like, let's have a smarm-off. I think it might be that you cannot.
You just hate Gavin so much.
This is like, for me, you would have to Clockwork Orange me to get me to watch Gavin Newsom and Charlie Kirk together. Like, I can't think of anything I would rather do less.
Okay, fair enough. Can we move on?
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Yeah. I was just intrigued in what Sarah was going to say on that. I knew that I was not going to have a popular position.
No, I think it's.
What sounds like the two of you agree?
It could be. I think I agree, but again, it's all about execution, whether or not you can actually get an audience. Ukraine. So a lot has happened since we sat down to talk about this. I feel like I've lost my mind on this. I did it on camera, which was fun. You know what they say? You should never. TV is a cold medium, right? You guys have heard this. You never want to be hot on camera. I did that. That was a mistake.
I totally disagree, and I think that is advice from a bygone era. I think that my best materials when I'm hot on camera, and I want more hot JVL. Just kind of wear a muscle shirt.
If I had a nickel.
Do you know that I do want more hot JVL, yes, but like hot everybody. We didn't talk about Elissa Slotkin's response, and we don't need to talk so much about, State of the Union rebuttal. But I will just say, as somebody who loves Elissa Slotkin, and thought that she did a pitch perfect rebuttal circa 2009. I have no notes for that era. Like I do, if John, I'm taping in the Crooked Studios, and so I just taped with John Favreau, and he's like, well, what advice would you give people like messaging or whatever? And I was like, none. I would just say like, what do you care about? What matters to you? What like lights you up? What are you upset about? What are you genuinely watching happen right now that you think this is fakakta? I will not stand for this. Like, and go with that. Yes. Because this is what I'm dying for. Like, she was good. The substance was good. Her delivery was A+ from a like politician standpoint. But I think what everyone's begging for in the this is not normal kind of moment is like, show me some heat. Show me you care. Show me it matters. Because she was doing the right thing, right? She's not talking about just like democracy, right? She's talking about America, right? You want to tell a better story about democracy? Tell a better story about America. But she sounds like a politician. A good one. But like still, I'm looking for the
Kark Mubin.
You're looking make for you fall. I want to feel something down there. Like give me something. No,
by down there you mean your heart. You mean your heart.
I do my heart. Yeah, no. Righteous. I had Amanda Lippman on today, and she had the same advice from the Run for Something, and she's like, I wanted righteous anger, I think was her phrase. And I was like, yeah, that's all I want.
All right. Well, let's talk about Ukraine.
We all have righteous anger about Ukraine.
On last week, Vladimir Zelensky came to the White House. He was ambushed by Trump and J.D. Vance in what was pretty clearly choreographed attack designed to provide pretext for the Trump administration cutting Ukraine completely loose.
I disagree with that, by the way.
Zelensky was thrown out. Okay, well, we can disagree about that in a minute, but I want to add the two things that have happened since then. Since then, J.D. Vance went and insulted our partners from the United Kingdom and France and talked about how they, were loser countries. I forget the exact quote he had on this, but, countries
small
with,
countries that haven't been in a war.
fought a war in 20, 30 years. And then he like tried to walk it back and pretend he wasn't talking about them, which is, I'm sorry, is absolutely preposterous. Like that. And I will not accept that. And then we got the directive reported that we are no longer, not only do we stop weapons shipments to Ukraine, but we are no longer intelligence sharing with Ukraine. And we have directed the United Kingdom, one of our partners, that they are not allowed to share any intelligence with Ukraine if it was derived from us. And so we are telling NATO allies what to do with intelligence. And I mean, I guess I'm happy that we aren't sharing intelligence formally with the Russians yet. Although, and I say this I'm not pissing on you. I really mean this. if you were a NATO ally and you worked in intel, what would your confidence level be that America was not off the books sharing intel with Russia at this point?
0.
Because mine would be 0. And I would think that you would have to simply assume that anything you pass the Americans might get passed to the Russians. Am I a crazy person?
I mean, it very well might not be happening. Like you said, there's no reporting.
Might not be, right?
But how could you possibly have any confidence given where we are?
And not even like, it didn't even have to be through formal channels. Like, even if it was just Trump,
right.
even
Informal.
if you're just like, the president is going to say stuff.
Yeah. Or Tulsi's going to have her people talk to their people, right? I mean, this is, so I don't know. We haven't talked about it. I'd like to talk about it. Sarah, you want to go first? Tim, do you want to go first? Somebody take the jump ball.
I would like to go first. I'll go first on
Please.
this one just because I disagreed with something you said. And I think that maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I went and rewatched the whole 50 minutes. It's supposed to be off for Tyler's 40th. I was off the books at 11 at right when the meeting started, and then like I started getting texts, and I was like, okay, well I'm back on the books for about an hour here. I'm gonna watch this and to respond, and then I'm off. But I like rewatched it clear of mind, like without having to be multitasking. And I don't know, like it just to me it looked like two people in J.D. Vance and Donald Trump that had a temper tantrum. Like that's what it looked like to me. It looked like Donald Trump wants to have his deal. I'm not saying that like he doesn't want to fuck over Zelensky eventually, right? Like we can all see the writing on the wall here. But like I think that he wanted to be able to say he got a deal and he got peace. And like J.D. Vance just like petulantly started attacking Zelensky. I think assuming Zelensky was just going to take it. And then when Zelensky didn't, like they both went off the handle. I mean, like Trump starts shouting about Hunter Biden's bathroom, and you just can't tell me that was a premeditated message. It also happened like 39 minutes in. So anyway, I could be wrong. I'm just throwing out there that I think it's possible it was a temper tantrum.
Fine, not worth arguing over because it ultimately doesn't matter, I guess.
Right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is what it is.
And many smarter people than me, including Eric and Elliot on S.H.I.E.L.D., whose episode on this was great, like thought it seemed premeditated. So I just want to throw out there, because I think it only matters in the context of what happens ahead. Just like the notion that like the current president and vice president can just be like triggered by a minor slight into completely blowing up the Western alliance.
Was it a minor slight, or was he just correcting the history?
A fact check.
Statement of truth.
Yeah, thank you. Fair, Sarah. Not even a minor slight. A fact check. A minor fact check.
That's quite important.
It would have been great if J.D. Vance had said, I thought we agreed that there would be no fact checking here.
Exactly. So anyway, the intelligence thing today, though, I just wanted to pop off on because it is so fucking bad. It is so bad because the weapons shipment thing, right, is something that like could hypothetically be fixed. I don't really think there's not a lot of reason to have optimism that it will be fixed, right? But that who knows, right? Like the cooler heads could prevail, and we could do some sort of rare earth for weapons deal that like lasts another year or whatever. Like that could all still happen. But like the intel gathering stopping, like could cost Ukrainian lives as we speak, like right now, right? Like the intel that we were providing, both Israel, which Biden never got any credit for, and Ukraine, like according to all of the experts I talked to, has just been absolutely critical. And like we were, our allies were steps ahead of the game on what was happening out in the battlefield.
Also, Ukraine feeds intel to us.
Right. Yeah.
That's
both.
the other thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it is a two-way street. This is important things for us and for our allies to know about what Russia is doing.
Right. And so like stopping immediately could mean like Russia does something in the next day or two. So it's different than saying, okay, you're not going to get these weapons you're planning on in a month, which also matters. And then the UK thing, like on top of J.D. Vance shitting on them, like the idea that we would like tell the Brits what they can do. Again, when Tulsi got nominated, and this isn't even Tulsi, the thing that Michael Weiss said, that Hertling said, that all the experts we talked to said was, I'm just super concerned about intel sharing now between us and our allies. And I think that the ramifications of that, both in Ukraine, but potentially here in America, like are very dire. So it's really, really bad.
So I also saw it and was, I don't know about shocked by it, but let me tell you why it's different than the not shipping dollars and or weapons. Yeah. Is that the American people are losing their patience with, or at least Republicans, really, but even more, slightly more broadly than that. Like, they don't like the idea of us. They think, even though they sort of think it incorrectly, that we're sending lots of money and weaponry. What we're actually doing is replenishing our stockpiles by sending them old stuff, and like we're actually making a lot of the money in our own industrial. But like, that's a lot to explain to the American people. And so, like, the idea,
how could you expect people to understand something that took you literally 2 sentences?
I know.
I mean, it's so complicated. God, it's like trying to explain cold fusion.
Yeah.
How could you possibly expect people to understand that, Sarah?
That's a good question.
Well, maybe it would be good if people were as good, as at messaging as whatever. Just hold on. The point is that you could, if you're the American president, you could be like, my country, right? Our voters are losing patience on this. There's no voter anywhere who's like, let's not share intelligence with them, and let's like,
there are voters
actively,
like that.
Yeah, but not really, right? Like the in the main, the voters are not upset that we're sharing intelligence or like helping Ukraine. They don't want boots on the ground, and they don't want money that could be spent here being spent over there. That is like, right. And that's a whole American first scarcity mentality that Trump has cultivated, where like anything that goes to an immigrant or anything that goes to Ukraine or anything from USAID, that is all stuff you don't get, you person. And so it's directly being taken out of your pocket. Nobody believes that about intelligence. So it is both, I think, not backed by any sentiment of American people. So this is being actively done by just like Trump and this administration because they want to harm Ukraine. And I was talking about this with JVL before the show. And again, I don't want to get ahead of my episode with Tommy Vitor on Saturday of the focus group, but we've been doing a bunch of focus groups on Ukraine. And like, Trump is misunderstanding people if he thinks that this war can end with Russia winning or taking over more territory for Ukraine and that not looking like a loss for Trump.
Do you think he cares about that?
I don't know. I don't know what he cares. Like, his incentives now are like, they don't make a lot of sense.
They make sense.
Well, let's talk through that, because I know that's sort of part of the, Lindsey Graham stuff. But I don't know. I do not think Americans do not like to lose wars, and they don't like us to look like losers. And so I think that if Russia walks away with this and it looks like America did nothing, like, I actually think that does harm Trump.
Sarah, isn't the way to square this just by having America switch sides? Because if Russia wins and we're on Russia's side, then we're the winners.
So he can try that, but I think that America's, and especially Republican support for Ukraine, has been going down, right? It's been on a precipitous drop. Our support for Russia has not been on a similar incline. And so what's interesting is that people are not happy about Ukraine. They think like, they believe this, again, scarcity. They think the money's going there. They think there's money laundering. They think they don't think well of Zelensky the way they did 3 years ago, because the right has been just sparing him. And I mean, I think we could have a real talk about some of the missteps I think Zelensky's made, including with Joe Biden. Like, he's not a perfect person. Is he infinitely better than Trump? And was the way that Trump talked to him like the most stomach-churning, disgraceful thing? Yes. But like, my point is that there have been areas that have allowed the right-wing media to just be churning and churning and churning on a hate Zelensky campaign. We shouldn't be support. But the pro-Putin stuff has not caught on. And so just switching sides, people think that the way that Trump is handling Putin is all part of Trump's strategery, his negotiating position, his 10-dimensional chess. If Russia actually wins, people will be like, Trump screwed that up.
I would get a Zelensky
tattoo. Go listen to the episode. The episode's very interesting.
I'm interested to hear that. That he is. I mean, not completely perfect for me, but pretty close. I think you square it by saying that Trump, like in everything, sees this as about him. And not to George Conway you, but this is in his malignant narcissism, and that he sees this as a personality drama, and Zelensky is mean to him, and Putin is nice to him, and Biden failed to get peace, and he could get peace. So maybe it's a miscalculation. I'm interested to hear the focus group. It's hard for me to wrap my head around what the median American thinks about Ukraine at this point. But I think like explaining Trump's motivations is he's like, well, if I can get a deal here, a peace deal, even if it's a shitty one for Ukraine, oh, well, Ukraine deserves a shitty deal because Zelensky's been mean to me. Putin's helped me and been nice, and he probably deserves to get a little bit of land and like whatever, and we can cut this deal, and maybe I can get some rare earth out of it and call it a win. Like I think that's what he's thinking. I don't think he's like thinking about American interests at all, or about geopolitical, or like I watched the Glenn Beck thing about how 4D chess. Like I think it is like a very simple, like he is trying to be the negotiator between two people, and he's determining which side he likes better based on who's nicer to him. I think it's honestly as simple as that.
I agree with that. I think my question is then though, like, what is the outcome, right? Now, Tim, actually, what you just said does make some sense to me. The idea that there's probably something in there where Trump is willing to give away, like, right? Like, Trump doesn't care if Ukraine has to give away some of its land. I will say the voters in the focus groups down on Ukraine did not like that idea at all of Russia getting Ukraine's land. But
That's
you're
nice.
right that like they also want peace, and they liked the mineral deal. Like they liked the idea of the deal.
We're gonna get rare earth. We'll see when that rare earth comes through. The whole thing is so ridiculous to see the fake smart MAGA people, like the Winnie the Pooh and the tuxedo MAGA defenses of this, the things that really piss me off, which is like, you guys just don't understand. And JD did this. Like there's no better security deal for Ukraine than the rare earth minerals, because like if we feel like we have an economic incentive, then we're definitely gonna go to their defense. And I was like, Michael Weiss made this point yesterday to me. He was just like, are you telling me that if Russia decided to go take that territory with the rare earth, that Trump wouldn't just like make the deal for it with Putin? We're really gonna go to battle? Like we're gonna send troops? Yeah. Like these guys are gonna send troops in to defend the fucking Ukrainians' rare earth minerals? Like ludicrous. Like the whole thing is ludicrous. Like everybody can see. Speaking of that, they like talking about the cards. Like everyone can see Trump's cards. Like he's playing poker with his cards backwards. Like we know what what they're willing to do. Like this idea that he's some crazy man and you'll never know what he's going to do. It's like, no, he's the most predictable person in the world. He's not going to send troops into Ukraine. Putin can do whatever the fuck he wants.
I mean, look, the Occam's razor explanation is probably right, but I think there is something more going on here, right? So the intelligence thing is about Ukraine, and it's about fucking Ukraine, but it's also about screwing over NATO, right? And this is so the Europeans have made quite clear that they believe that Ukraine is central to their security. And so as you said, stopping weapons shipments is bad, but you could, if you wanted to sell it to our allies, you could sell it as like, hey, this is just what domestic politics requires of us. Saying we're going to stop doing intel sharing that is an attack on the interests of our allies.
Yes.
That is an attack on NATO's interests. That is saying, yes, we hear that you believe Ukraine is important to your interests, and we're gonna screw you. So why? What is it? It's about helping to break up NATO. That is what this is ultimately about. And when I think about Donald Trump and about what he wants to do with America, you can understand why he doesn't like NATO, because the NATO countries are, with the exception of Hungary and Turkey, democracies. And he doesn't want to live like that. And so holding hands with France and with the UK and Poland, that feels icky to him because he thinks it makes his project look worse. Whereas if he switches sides, right, then selling to America, like, look, autocracy is great. This is why we're on the sides with Putin. Look how great these guys are. I just think it all makes his larger domestic project more palatable. And it feels like it's in harmony. Maybe I think that's part of what's going on.
Maybe. All I'm saying is I think that there's a chance that he's not even really thinking about a domestic project in the
very
way that
possibly.
You are, in an authoritarian way. And it's like simply
very possibly
that Macron and these guys just feel like they're the libs that don't like him. And the mean dictators feel like the people that are his
showing
buddies.
up last week with the letter. I have here a very special letter from His Majesty. And this is... Mr. Trump, I hope you understand, Mr. President, this has never happened before. This is so special that he is inviting you. It is a sign of his unbelievable respect for you. I mean, it was an astonishing point. It is not like these guys are all running around kicking him and making fun of him in public. They are doing the thing that he says he wants.
This is a great point, and this is the thing that annoyed me the most about the Zelensky
because
takes.
they're Democrats.
Yeah, even like pro-democracy, even pro-Ukraine people. Like I saw several takes from like smart pro-Ukraine people that were like criticizing Zelensky for this.
Puck was on this.
Yeah, why isn't he doing more like Keir Starmer? And I'm just like, again, if it was the last year of his presidency, okay. But like, where's the evidence that this works for any long period of time? Like, you can suck up to him for a little while, but like, eventually he turns on fucking everybody. Like, he's turned on everybody.
Also, Zelensky has gone out of his way to have good relations with Trump. This is not, could he have gone farther? Well, he can always go farther.
Yeah, it's like the Keir Starmer thing. I guess my point is that Keir does everything that people say you should do, as you point out. And then a week later, Trump's like, you're not allowed to use our intel.
Yeah. A week later, Trump is making diktats to him about what the UK intelligence agencies can do.
Right. So fuck him. That's my point.
Yeah, here's my question. This is a genuine question. I do think we struggle a little bit in the realpolitik elements of like assessing this because Zelensky becomes a stand-in for us in these situations. And what we would like to see Zelensky do is kick Trump in the balls, right? Like we watch Trump and Vance, who, especially Trump, right, who has earned nothing, who has never put a country before himself or his people or anything, has never endangered a hair on his stupid head for anything resembling a moral or something like deeper and bigger than himself. And so we, I think, really get Zelensky's anger and like them recasting how Russia behaved toward Ukraine has got to be for Zelensky at the most gut level, like just impossible to swallow. And we don't want him to swallow it. Like we sitting here don't want him to swallow it because it's immoral. Right? It'd be this person that we think is right. Okay, but is that right? Or should he? And I see a lot of take, and I react badly to these takes. So I'm not giving this take myself, but I am challenging myself to think, if I'm Zelensky and I just have to get this done, and I recognize that this guy is falling closer and closer to Russia, and we probably can't do this. Like when Trump says you're not holding the cards, like one of the biggest cards he was holding is America's support. And Trump has the ability to take that away. And so I hate JD Vance and Trump doing that to him because it's awful. But if you know that they're awful and you know that they're kind of sympathetic to your, like, what do you do if you're Zelensky? What is the real politics?
Can I field this?
Yeah.
Can I field this? The realpolitik answer to this is that Zelensky must have known or should have known that this story ends with Trump on Putin's side. And so from his position, this is going to wind up having to be either something that there is a peace deal that has to be sold to the Ukrainian people that they will sign off on in some way. I don't think that exists in any possible framework. Or he needs to shore up European support. And he needs to come to terms with the fact that NATO is fracturing. And he needs to have rock solid relations with the EU nations. And in order to that, you need to prove to the EU nations that you are going to go all the way to the wall. And so because of that, I think he had to be not tough, because he wasn't tough with Trump, but he did have to display that he isn't ready to like just fold up, right? But you have to demonstrate strength. And what this is really about from his perspective, I think he must know that there is nothing he could do to hold Trump on side. It has been clear as day that Trump is on Russia's side. And so, the future for them is the EU.
I hear your question, Sarah, and you might be right. I might be totally blinded by my rage, but like, isn't the realpolitik like side of this eventually calling Trump's bluff? You know what I mean? And I sort of see that across the board. And maybe with Zelensky, it's too big of an ass because just the life and death nature of this. But I just feel this way across the board. Like, everybody's decided that the realpolitik way, whether it's in the trade wars or whether it's on the Capitol Hill, whether it's in Ukraine, the realpolitik way to deal with Trump is to flatter him, rub his belly, and assume that like he'll stay on your side for as long as possible. And like, isn't it like incumbent on somebody to be like, no, fuck you, bring it. Let's see. All right, you really have the balls to switch sides to Russia? You're really going to do that? You're going to break up NATO? I don't believe you. I want to see you do it. And then if you do it, then okay, then I'll go with the Europeans. Again, it's probably too much to ask for Zelensky, but like,
I believe that NATO is basically done. And I'm an accelerationist on this because the most important thing is the EU rearming and coming to a post-NATO arrangement. And ripping the Band-Aid off is the surest way to spur public opinion in Europe. Which, I don't know if you guys saw, but even the Daily Mail in Britain has turned on Trump. Like, it's
Farage
crazy.
Attacked Trump.
Yeah. Like, I don't think people understand that Vance thing in which he, again, without saying the Brits and France, but absolutely insulted these people. These people they've, for no reason of their own, have shed the blood of their soldiers just to like ride sidecar with America over the last 20 years. It is astonishing that the Vice President of the United States would insult them like this. And I don't know, like that's...
So can I just follow up on this? Because your answer is very compelling to me. And that's what I want that to be true. Like, I want it to be that Zelensky understands that Trump is not going to be on his side. And like, the best thing that they can do is solidify an alliance with the Europeans and understand that America's gone. Why did he send that letter that Trump read at the State of the Union? Don't you think he's trying to like figure it out? Do you not feel like he's scrambling right now in this moment a little bit?
Buying time. I think he also has to buy time. I think he's got to buy time, right? I mean, I
think that's what it is, right? It's post cleanup. I mean, again,
keep hope alive. This is why I think it is too big of an ask, probably, to Zelensky to do what we want on the balls kick. I think that like there are other people that are better positioned to do it, but like, I don't know, like buy time, you know, run the clock.
So the thing is, from Zelensky's position, if he could have elongated this period of ambiguity with the Americans, then he wanted to do that. But at that meeting, and that's why he's like, dangled the rare earth stuff and, been willing to sell rights of some sort to the Americans. But at that meeting, when you're getting attacked like that, you can't go into turtle guard because you've got to make sure the Europeans know that you're not going to fold up. If they come to and they actually start spending the money on weaponry and decide that they're going to rearm, they need to know that you're a reliable partner and you will fight.
So you think he did that? You think he knew exactly what he was doing? You don't think he reacted from like a gut instinct level of like, I can't? Because to me, I disagree.
Maybe he is. I'm not inside the guy's head.
I agree with Tim. I also watched that whole thing, and it did not look like a setup to me. It looked like what it looked like to me was that truth exists below the surface for everybody, right? Like Zelensky hates them, they hate Zelensky. Yeah. And everybody got mad.
What sealed the deal for me was their press release was out within like 7 minutes of the end of that meeting. And I just don't think that you don't have that level of like, hey, the foreign policy of the United States has just changed in 7 minutes. Right. Going into that meeting that you're going to put out a press release saying this. I mean, it did, right? It said he's not a partner for peace. He's not welcome here. It's
I just want to say one thing about the Zelensky letter on this. That's kind of last thought on this is it does seem kind of clever, and the military guys I was reading, it feels kind of clever, his proposal and that counter proposal, which was basically, let's do a ceasefire in the air and sea, essentially.
A ceasefire?
Right, so no bombing, no ships, right? And it's like, because on the one hand, it's like, well, fine. If you want to say Putin will follow a ceasefire, like, let's test it. Like, let's do a little partial ceasefire. Let's see if he actually will do it. And on the other hand, it's like that does, again, run the clock as far as, okay, like we're going to have to really up the, our production, like working with Europe, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. And it's like it was not a full submission to the Trump thing, right? It was like a counter proposal that, included some Trump belly rubbing, because that's what you have to do, I guess.
By the way, did you guys read that gigantic New York Times piece about drones in Ukraine? It's fascinating. 70% of battlefield casualties are now from drones. And so drones have replaced basically artillery. Yeah. They've replaced even like a traditional air, like, F-16 and MiG-29s and stuff. It is wild. And this is, whatever, we can get into that another time. Tariffs. It's tariff week again. Is it real this time? What do you guys think? Sam, our colleague Sam Stein, has set the over-under on Friday for the latest round of tariffs to be undone. Sarah, you like to bet. They've already partially been undone. They might be undone by the time we finish.
He's doing carve-outs, is what it looks like. Yeah, it's right that he's going to keep them in. He's going to do auto and a couple other things where people seem
he's going to have, what is this? He's going to have people self-report?
I don't know. Well, it just seems like people who yelp the loudest. It's like they went to a Ford dealership or something, and the guy was like, well, no one's going to buy these trucks, and it's going to add $20,000 to the cost. And so Trump's like, well, we'll exempt automobiles. Problem solved. So I guess just people keep shouting.
Because I thought the tariffs are going to bring on around a golden age. So if it helps people to not to carve them out, that kind of undermines the argument for them, I would think.
Well, see, 48 hours ago, Maria Bartiromo was saying how it was good to have these tariffs on autos because it would convince these people to relocate all of their production to America, blah, blah, blah. And now the carve-outs will be good because that's the essence of Trumpism, right? Whatever he says now, we believe and is true, and then we'll believe the opposite in 5 minutes when he changes his mind.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be around. To me, he feels like a stubborn old man that has decided that tariffs are good and won't be talked out of it. And so me and Sam are on opposite sides of this one. He says,
and also he's always liked it. He's always liked tariffs. Like this is one of those deep Trump things. Just like I think he's never liked immigration.
Right. He's always liked the wall. Yeah. He never even talks about the wall anymore.
Well, that's because they're just rounding people up and deporting them. This is no longer about a staunch. This is no longer about stopping the flow in. It's about actively getting people out.
But the carve out also he likes because it gives him unilateral power. Right?
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where
come kiss my ring and we'll figure out a deal for it.
Yeah. Well, I'll wave the wand and, the autocrat will let you know whether or not you are in favor or not. So he likes that because that gets people to be nice to him, makes them feel powerful. So I think that they'll keep doing it. The reciprocal tariffs, he says, are coming in April. Because like there's sort of a soft bipartisan agreement. Not for me as a free marketer, but there's a soft bipartisan agreement about the China tariffs, and like people don't like China. It's like that. Whenever they talk about the Trump bluffs on tariffs, nobody mentions this, but the China tariffs stayed from the first round, and he added on to them. And there's no sign. And the 20% tariff on China, if those stay, like that alone, is bigger than all of the tariffs that he did in the first term. The costs of those tariffs will exceed everything they did in the first term. So if that just stays, that is going to have an impact on the economy. And even maybe some people think that's a good thing, but okay, but like that's happening. The Mexico, Canada stuff, like right now, I guess we're going to keep tariffing tomatoes and not cars, and then reassess it on April 2nd. But the Europeans, I think, are playing with fire. I think there's a European tariff coming in April where Trump wants to throw a fastball their direction. He's already pissed at them. And he's talked about a free market deal with Argentina. I think he's going to keep doing all this shit. Like, I don't see any, path towards him being like, all right, mission accomplished.
Couldn't he just sort of, spinning plates here, though? Like, declare a tariff on somebody, then pull it off, declare it on somebody else, pull that off. So long as he's always declaring a tariff, he never has to keep any tariffs in place.
It'll be interesting how the markets respond to that because, I guess people can do a lot of like insider shorts on things because like he's going to put the tariffs on and then he's going to take them off. And so there's going to be the dip by the dip and he's going to take them away. I don't know. But like that is no way to run an economy. Just
you don't think?
Like I think long term, I don't know that he can do that indefinitely without the markets starting to have like some pretty entrenched feelings about it. Can we talk though? Because a lot of these things layer up to the question of like, what's he playing at here for the long term? And so not to take over the show, but
that's great. It's a good segue to Lindsey Graham's tweet. So Lindsey Graham tweeted that Donald Trump's performance in the State of the Union was fantastic, and he concluded his tweet with Trump 2028. He's just shit posting. You people worried about this are just, you have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, we're going to joke about it until it's real.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I think that the good news is that at this point, like the odds of a total economic collapse between now and 2028, like are increasing every day. Not a guarantee, but I think it's going to be rather challenging for him to have the popular will to run. Now, I guess this is where JVL will go, like, he'll take the military. To me, it's like the bigger risk of 2028 is like the Putin thing, where you do like a stooge reverse whammy. That's then like a military coup. I don't think we can take off the table, unfortunately. But I do think that his position for all that stuff gets weaker if there's an economic collapse. I do think it is related
it's
to
a
the
state of
previous
emergency.
discussion.
We have saboteurs stabbing real hardworking heritage Americans in the back, Timothy. And so you can't hold elections in circumstances like this where they're just going to steal it. We got to postpone them.
I think that's tougher. I really agree with you. I make this point a lot that like for Trump 2028 to happen, Trump has to be popular. And like things have to be going well. So if he keeps crashing the economy, I don't know that I don't think you can do Trump 2028 then.
I mean, it makes it harder, but only marginally. And the other thing is he does seem to be making moves to take over all the reporting agencies. So it is possible that we will wind up having it be like the Soviets, this year's wheat harvest has set all the records. The kulaks have never brought in more wheat. Comrades, everything is great. Why can't we get bread? Don't listen to that. That's what the imperialists are telling you. Fake news.
Fake stats definitely feel like they're coming.
They're already. I mean, this thing when he opened the State of the Union, and like obviously I expect this from him, but there was a part of it where it's like it was a landslide, a huge mandate by margins not seen in the modern era. I'm like, your margin was smaller than Biden. It was smaller than Obama. Like, what are you talking about?
Smaller than Hillary Clinton.
Smaller than no. And then it's like the right track, wrong track is better than it's ever been. And I was like, it's not though.
That's not true.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I've been playing this Steve Cohen clip on the pod.
Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it every time.
Because it's just like the math is like they're in a really bad spot. Like cutting government spending, increasing the prices on things with tariffs, bullying the Fed into lowering rates. Like none of it really. None of it really seems good. And we've seen everybody's been showing the Atlanta Fed graph. Who knows? Just one economist. So I think it was Mark Zandi also has downgraded us to being basically neutral. I think that he bankrupted every business he ever did, and it seems like that is the trajectory we're on. And I think that the worse it goes, the more desperate he's going to get. And I do think that a lot of the things JVL worries about will happen then, like the fake numbers and the wheat harvest. But eventually, I do think reality overtakes the ability of propaganda. But it's going to be I feel like we're going to have a nice kind of sociology test on that. In the modern media world, can propaganda overtake reality? We might be able to find out.
All right. I want to get us out of here soon, but I have to do this. Because I need this. Sarah, okay. Don't blackball me, Mitch. I need this. NBC4 in Philadelphia interviewed Mr. Jay Smith, who worked for the federal government's Taxpayer Advocate Service in Philadelphia, and he was laid off.
Philadelphia is an important city for voting, right? It was kind of like which way you voted on that was kind of meaningful.
I'm sorry, it was NBC 10, not NBC 4. But I'd like to read from their report, Sarah, and have you react to it. When asked by NBC 10 political reporter Lauren Make if he supported Trump in the last election, Smith hesitated with his answer before ultimately saying he did. Honestly, yeah, I did, Smith said. I thought, he would be somebody that would, because he talked a lot about taking care of the military, taking care of veterans, taking care of the people that put him in office, and that just hasn't happened. So if I could go back in time, I would have voted for Vice President Harris in a heartbeat.
Did he say that about Vice President Harris?
Yes.
Oh
my God.
Hey, Sarah.
That's interesting because I would say a lot of the voters that I'm talking to that are starting to show the signs of like he's not focusing enough on the economy. The one thing they're not doing, and this is where I got really annoyed because some people, I was on Nicole Wallace and I talked about these voters, and Huffington Post and Daily Beast like both ran hits, like pieces off of my hit.
They aggregated you? You got
and
aggregated?
they did like, and it was very like Yas Queen resistancy of like voters turning on Trump. And I was like, okay, no. Actually,
so that's why you wrote that piece for The Atlantic, that great Atlantic piece?
Yes, I did. Actually, this is part of it. Is I knew I was gonna get this. But part of the reason I did is to be like, nothing in any of it suggests that people are like, I regret this and wish I had voted for Democrats. Like, nobody is saying that. What they are saying is I don't feel like Trump is focused enough on the economy, which is why I was very careful about being like, this is the very beginning of a kind of buyer's remorse, not people being like, boy, I wish I'd voted for Democrats. And so I didn't care for the way that you reporters have to call me if you're going to do stories about my research, because otherwise you're going to misrepresent it and then people won't trust me.
Sarah, getting aggregated is a sign of success in the content business. So sorry, you've been aggregated. It is just part of the deal. I'll say this. What I learned from listening to Sarah is listening to JVL read Mr. Smith's quote. I was filled with a blinding rage. And then listening to Sarah talk about the voters who are unhappy with Trump but don't have any regrets, have no regrets, makes me think maybe I should appreciate Mr. Smith.
I'm not saying they have no regret. I'm just saying they don't feel like this is what they asked for. They feel like he's not focusing on it, and they're hopeful that he will. But if he doesn't, I do think they can turn on him.
Well, they can keep hoping, but there's nothing false about hope. You never know. Maybe Trump will turn over a new leaf at 79.
If only he would listen to the hopes of the true American folk. All right, guys, good show. Long show. Both of you guys got to get out of here. I got to get to church. Get my ashes. Wednesday. Happy Lent, everybody. That's a Catholic joke. There is no such thing as a happy Lent. And we'll see you
JVL, what are you giving up for Lent?
Good luck, America. I don't like to talk about my Lent.
Okay.